Here are my top 10 ideas for teaching verbs to ESL students. Number 1 is flashcard sentences. I often like to bring flashcards into my classes, especially for like kindergarten and elementary school students. And then I would just show the flashcard like an action word, and then students could just say like walking, eating, etc. Next level is I try to get students to make a sentence related to it. So for example, if it's someone like playing soccer, I could ask a question, how often do you play soccer? And they could answer, I play soccer once a week, something like that. All right, the second idea I have is vocabulary auction. So this is when you make up a bunch of sentences related to the kind of the topic of the day, and then I cut out all the words individually. So like, it's a dog, it would be it's a dog. And then I put students into small groups, and then I give them each some money. And students have to bid on the words that they think will help them make a sentence. At the end of the auction time, all the students would have maybe like 7 or 8 or 10 words, and they can kind of try to fit them together into sentences, as many grammatically correct sentences as possible. And they can also trade with their classmates if they think another group has a word that might help them and they want to let go of one, then that's fine. And students can trade like 2 words for 1 word. Is kind of just a free-for-all, whatever you want. So then at the end of the allotted time, the winner is the team with the most grammatically correct sentences. Okay, the third idea I have for teaching verbs is disappearing text. So this is kind of just a nice review or a little bit of a time filler at the end of a class. So write down a sentence on the board related to whatever you're teaching that day, in that case verbs, and then students have to say the entire sentence out loud. So for example, last night I played soccer and I cooked dinner. And then you could erase cooked dinner, and students would have to say the sentence again. Last night I played soccer and I cooked dinner. And then erase a couple more words, and then students say the sentence. And finally, there's nothing on the board, but students are saying the complete sentence out loud. So this just helps students remember sentence structure and kind of also vocabulary, key vocabulary words that you're teaching. All right, the next idea I have is board games. So this is a really nice activity. It's student-centered, students really like it. You can give a few little prizes, and it's actually very versatile, and you can kind of make the board game related to whatever you're teaching that day. So for example, if we're talking about the simple past, I could write a bunch of questions and put them on a board, on a grid. So for example, what did you eat for dinner last night? What time did you get up this morning? Did you brush your teeth this morning? Things like that. And then students would have to like roll a dice. They land on a square and they have to answer the question correctly. If correct, they stay there. If incorrect, they go back whatever number that they rolled, like 5 or 3 or whatever. Also have some special spaces on the board. So like freebie, take a rest, go back 3, move ahead 4, things like that. And yeah, so try it out. Students really, really love it. Okay, the next idea I have is memory circle. So memory circle is ideal for teaching the simple past. So students could make a true sentence about themselves about last night. Last night I ate pizza for dinner. The next student would say, last night I played soccer and Jackie ate pizza. And then we go around in a circle, and the key is memorizing what everybody else said. If someone misses one, they sit down and they're out of the round. So just a little tip for the teacher, write down quickly what people say so there's no confusion, and you can kind of keep track that way. Unless you want to challenge your own memory, then you could also do that too. But I tend to write them down. All right, the next idea I have for teaching verbs is running dictation. So make a conversation between 2 people with lots of the target vocabulary, in this case, verbs that you're teaching. Then cut it out utterance by utterance, so each person, like person A, person B, person A, and then paste them around the classroom at various intervals. Put students into pairs. One person will stand up and go to one of the pieces of paper, reads them, and then memorizes them, and then comes to their partner who's sitting down with a pen and paper, and then whispers it to that person who has to write it down. So at the end, if there's, say, like 8 conversation pieces, so A, B, A, B, A, B, 8, 4 times each, they have to put that conversation in the correct order. So number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And the winner is the team with maybe only, I usually give allow 2 or 3 mistakes and say like spelling, and then it has to be in the correct order. All right, the next idea I have for teaching verbs, this is especially good for children, is songs and chants. So whatever verbs you're teaching, action verbs, modal verbs, simple past, past continuous, whatever, there are songs and chants on YouTube designed for English learners. So just have a look, a quick search on there, and you're sure to find something that will work for your class. All right, the next idea I have is telling a story. So telling a story is ideal for working on the past tense. Stories, all the verbs in those are past tense. So you could kind of come up with a theme. So maybe like best vacation, most embarrassing moment, something like that. And to make the stories better, I never put students on the spot for this situation. I like to give them maybe like 2 or 3 minutes of just kind of thinking time. I don't call it writing time because I don't necessarily want my students to write out the story unless it's a writing focused lesson. But I want them to tell their story and say it out loud. So they could write down just a few keynotes. Like for example, a best vacation was in Canada and maybe they ate poutine and they went to the Rocky Mountains or whatever. So they could like write down Rocky Mountains, poutine, Canada, and just kind of have some ideas in their mind about what they're going to do. And then to level up, students can say the story and then the rest of the class can ask a couple follow-up questions. If you have a really big class, put students into groups of 4, and then the one person says their story, and then the other 3 people in the group have to ask that person a follow-up question. Okay, so the next idea I have to teach verbs is role plays. So if you're teaching verbs, like for example, maybe at the airport, there's kind of some familiar verbs like enter and like immigrate and for what purpose, like it's all this kind of this specialized vocabulary. So if you're teaching that vocabulary, you can make a role play at the airport and students can kind of have an opportunity to practice what they've learned. The next idea and the final one I have is dialogue substitution. So you know in the textbooks there's often a dialogue that introduces a concept or a topic, and if you ask your students to read it out loud with a partner, they often just blow through it, and then you can ask them a question about what they read, and often students will have no idea what they actually read. And of course it's not really their fault. I mean, I would do the same thing because they don't actually have a reason to read. So instead I like to give students a reason to read by removing some of the key words. So in this case, maybe I would pre-teach some of the verbs and then I would remove the verbs from the dialogue, and they have to read it together, and then the verbs would maybe be on like a little list, or I'd write them on the whiteboard, and they have to put them into the dialogue. Another way is to take out the verbs maybe and put them in the present tense, and then if the conversation is in the past tense, they could conjugate that verb into the past tense. So it's just removing some elements of the dialogue in order to turn it from like kind of a simple reading activity into one that's also more focused on meaning. Okay, so those are my ideas for teaching verbs to ESL students. I hope you enjoyed them. Also be sure to check out my book, 103 Low Prep ESL Speaking Games and Activities. And please hit like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.